In last lecture, I promised that I'm going to explain modules, so here we are. Well, as we already said, all state of our application is inside one big tree, one big object. So as our application grows, our store can get really cluttered with code. And so that's where modules come in. With modules, we can divide our store into smaller chunks, into modules, where each module can have its own state, mutations, actions, and even nested modules inside. So an example of a module can be movies module, where we have all state related to movies. We can also have, for example, user module or authentication module. We can also have products module and so on. You get the point. So let's create new module. I will create inside store modules folder, and inside let's create a movies.js. Well, here I want to create a couple of objects. So for example, we will have state, we will have mutations, we will have actions, and let's also create getters here. And we also have to export this module, and let's export everything that we have here. So state, mutations, actions, and also getters. And now that we have this module, well, we also have to import this module inside our main index file of our store. So let's import movies from modules movies. And then we also have to register this module inside modules. So back inside movies here, I want to create a movies state, which will be an array of objects. And I have already prepared a list of movies that we will use for now, and we will later switch to Firebase, of course. So inside assets, I have this movies list, which just exports an array of objects, and every object is a movie with some basic data inside. So we have an ID, name, and rating, and so on. And we have maybe 10 movies or something similar. So inside here then, let's import movie list from, and we have to go inside assets, and we have to grab movie list. And then here, since we are exporting an array, I can just say movie list here. And let's also declare a getter here, so we can actually fetch or actually tap into our store from our components and take this movie list. So here I want to have get movies, and I want to pass state, and I want to return state.movies here. That's the only thing that we need. So now if we go inside our movie list here, and inside, well, export default, I will use another property here, and this is computed that we haven't mentioned so far. Well, essentially computed acts similar to methods. It can execute some, let's say, functions inside, but it is also similar to getters because it caches the result of a function. So it will reevaluate only if the dependency which it is tracking changes. Otherwise, it will just return cached result. So we save some performance here. Well, this is actually not a method, but a property. So inside, let's define movies. And I want to tap into our store, and we have to return here as well. So we can access our store on this view instance by this store. And then here, let's call getters. And I want to call get movies here. So let's save and let's check what we have. Let's also comment out movies from here. So if we go back inside our page here, well, we have our movies rendered, which is very nice. So we fetch the movies from our store. So if we go back here, there's another approach that you can take here, and I will show you how, which will also segue us into next lecture. So let's comment out movies here, and let's take this back in, and I want to have a created method here, which is one of the life cycle events of our component, which I want to explain in more details in next lecture. But here also we can tap into our store, and we can set this movies equals to what we have in our store. So if we take a look here, well, it works the same way as it did before. And I will leave this approach for now, because I want to show you something in the future with this.